Kenneth Lamb and I met at the Toronto Timepiece Show last September when he stopped by my booth. After chatting and getting a closer look at what was on his wrist, I knew I wanted to learn more. I'm excited to host Ken and give him the space to share his design philosophies and approach to his watch brand Arken, as it's somewhat of a David versus Goliath story, as so many micro brands are. I hope you enjoy it. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard Age Podcast. How are things?
I'm good, man. Yeah. It's just been busy, obviously, since I met you in Toronto, because we had like a launch over Christmas and stuff, and and all that kind of crazy stuff. But yeah, how are you? You've launched a new series. That's what you were going to talk to me about, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on all kinds of stuff, really. Yeah, and Toronto was interesting. That was my first time to Toronto. Had you been there before?
No, it was my first time as well.
Cool. What'd you think of it?
It was a good show. Like, I think the venue, I think he'd booked it not knowing whether it was going to be anything. And now he knows, obviously, it's going to be kind of a big thing. I think this year is going to be even more like impactful, I think. Are you coming to Vancouver?
I'm not. I can't remember if I've talked about this on the pod or not. I think I have. I think with the duties and the taxes and everything like that, like, I had people coming to my booth that were great, and I sold some stuff, but again, I don't know if I've talked about this or not. And so whoever's listening, if I've said this before, I apologize for the repetition, but it's,
oh wait, are we on right now?
Yeah. No.
No way.
Yeah. I get in and go, so yeah, it's more natural this way. I feel like, except now, it's awkward. No, just kidding. Yeah. So for me, it's really just like, I really need to focus on profitability. I think I've kind of reached my wit's end with going to shows and just chalking it up to marketing expense and exposure. And yes, that stuff still applies, but like, I genuinely need to make money, and like, I'm kidding myself otherwise. So Toronto was not profitable. It's not that it was like tragic, but I think my days of just trying to recoup the cost of the show, because then there's travel, there's food, there's hotel, there's all this stuff associated. So yeah, I'm not going to Vancouver for that reason, just because like I'm not super optimistic, I guess. And not to be negative, it's just I does it make financial sense? I don't know. It's always a crapshoot, especially with a brand new event. I thought Toronto was going to be better because I already have like Canadian customers, so those folks order from my website and pay the international shipping, and that's great. But for me, I just made the executive decision not to go back to Canada, unfortunately. But I'm going to be in your backyard in 3 weeks. I'm going to London.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Where are you based?
I'm based in the Midlands. So like, the closest city is Birmingham. So I grew up in Birmingham.
Right.
But I live in the Warwickshire countryside. So as you kind of go to the outskirts of Birmingham, you start to obviously go into the countryside then. And then obviously before you get to like Stratford upon Avon or, start to go even more south, I'm in like in the countryside around here. So, but are you exhibiting? You here for having a good time? Like, what's the...
Yeah, I'm doing an event actually. It's me, Justin Hast, Michael from Molquin, Tim Green and the guys at Subdial. And then, do you know Tom Exton, TGE, on YouTube? He's automotive guy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so he'll be there. It's all of us kind of coming together and celebrating watches and promoting Standard H. And then that Saturday, I'm due to go to Goodwood, south of London.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I absolutely cannot wait.
Where are you doing the event?
At Subdial.
Oh, you're doing it at Subdial.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be a fun event, man.
So unfortunately, this podcast will come out after that event, so I don't mind like talking about it because I haven't even promoted it yet. Like no one knows.
The obviously the lineup of guys you just mentioned, they're all super chill dudes. Like,
Oh,
I know I've
100%.
met Justin, and he's like one of the nicest guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that would be great.
Yeah.
We have to. I have to get your details after this because I might stop by if I can.
No, please come to it. Yeah, for sure. Like we're not, to my knowledge, trying to limit it in attendance in any way. So I'm excited. Yeah, I think I've never done an event in England before, and I think I've got a few again UK customers just trying to promote that market. Selfishly, I just love London and England as a whole. Yeah, so I'm super excited, and I'm friends with all these people. So it's like I'm just like I never get in real life FaceTime, with these folks. So anytime you can spend time with Justin, it's a great time, and same with the rest of the crew. I have yet to meet Tim Green in person, but we followed each other on Instagram and such. So yeah, man, super excited. So growing up near Birmingham, what were you into as a kid? Like, what were your hobbies?
Oh man. So I kind of grew up, I had a very normal, kind of working class upbringing. So football was my life pretty much.
Oh, cool.
It's one of those things like I grew up in a cul-de-sac and like literally from the age of, I don't know, maybe 6, from when I could actually kick a ball, I was probably out kicking a ball. That was my life for the, I don't know, the first 10 years of my life, maybe like the first
Sure.
10 years from 6, let's say. Um and yeah, so that's kind of what I got up to. I guess Birmingham gets a bad rap for kind of uh, crime and safety and stuff like that. And obviously those neighborhoods are, they vary depending on where in Birmingham you're from, but it's one of those things where if you play a sport or you get involved in something like that, you kind of just you throw yourself in that. So I was playing like football, like, I don't know, 4 times a week. And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then outside of that, it was probably like pestering my brother to let me play like the Sega Mega Drive or something like that. It was just like just in between filling time. So that's what it was like for me.
Well, did you ever like have designs on going pro or anything?
Football.
Yeah.
I mean, you dream it, right? But so few people that do it.
Right.
Like you want to play football, and I had a lot of friends that kind of committed to playing for the district or playing at a certain level to get scouts to go to academy, and then you go into the feeder system to play for a club and all that sort of stuff. Like I did have like plans to do that, but by the time you get to the age where you really have to make those sorts of decisions, I was obviously getting into different things then, right? Like as a young teenager, I started to get into skateboarding, and I started getting into wanting to just go and hang out and have a good time with friends, and so you're not really thinking of the political decisions you have to make to like
Right.
join the certain club to get the exposure you need to go here, there, or anywhere. So
Yeah.
yeah, it didn't really work out for me. I was too distracted on other creative avenues, I think.
Right. Right. What were you doing creatively then early on? Were you like drawing or painting or
I think the first creative outlet I had was probably graffiti, like
Mm.
mural painting.
Wow. Started big.
Yeah, I can't even remember what it was that started it, but I remember seeing like these pictures. Like there's a library that I used to go to, and they had a section of like art, but it was really really small in comparison to everything else. And I remember like on the bottom shelf there was this like really thick chunky book called like Graffiti World or something like that. And I
Okay.
remember pulling it out, and it was like an encyclopedia of graffiti artists all around the world, right? Like icons from like Cope 2 all the way to like, the guys like Banksy before Banksy was like a worldwide known entity. Like he had like 1 or 2 pages in the book. Like he was a small character in the world of graffiti art.
So
And I remember
funny.
just looking at that book and being like, this is crazy. Like this is so cool. And so I think my first like creative thing was kind of the typography and graffiti work and graffiti art and all that sort of stuff. And I'd spend hours like drawing letters in a black book and saving up my pocket money, like saving up dinner money. It wasn't even pocket money because I didn't have pocket money, but I had like dinner money, and I would eat less, so I had a little bit left over, and I'd save up till I had enough money to buy like a can of spray paint. And then eventually, once I had enough cans, okay, I got black outline paint, I got fill, I got highlight, I got low light. Okay, I'll go to this wall and do something that I've been drawing in on the back of my like science book for like the last however many weeks. So that was probably the first like creative avenue I had. And then obviously skateboarding is pretty creative, right?
Yeah.
You spend hours trying to kick flip until you've busted your foot like 1,000 times.
Right.
But yeah, I've always been that type of person, just trying to go full send on the thing until I nail that objective.
Right. Right. Yeah. So do you find that that's kind of true in other areas of your life? Like once you get an idea in your head, you just kind of have to get it done.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like that with everything. Like that's what led me down to like doing photography and videography. That's what led me down to starting the watch company. That's what, that's what leads me down even now, like altering clothes and building Swiss Army knives. And just like, if I get an idea in my head, I'm just like, oh yeah, I want to do that. And then I'll just do that thing. So it doesn't stop. And then as I've gotten older, I've realized that like I get it from my dad. Like my dad was always doing that when I was really young. I just was picking up that quality from him, like passively.
Interesting. What were his like mediums, so to speak?
Oh man. So from as early as I can remember, like his two big things growing up were, one was like koi fish. Like he was really into koi fish.
Is he Japanese?
No. So my dad's Chinese.
Okay.
Yeah, Chinese descent. But he was born in Vietnam.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, so he was really into koi fish, and then literally like the first house, like the house I grew up in, he dug out two huge ponds like by hand, like one that was like 6 foot deep and it was like 11 foot long, and it was like by hand, like in the garden. Like he just had these huge koi ponds.
If anybody knows anything about manual labor, go dig a hole and tell me how easy that is.
Yeah.
Let alone a friggin' 6 foot pond.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was like the big pond, because we had some koi fish that were like massive. And then there was another pond which was like 4 or 5 foot deep, and it was a little bit smaller. That was like the first one he did to see if he could do it. And that was the one hobby that he used to do in the summer. And then in the winter, when it was cold, he used to build computers. So like he used to build computers and kind of, this was like, obviously early days of computers. So I didn't get away with stuff like, even though I'm of that generation, I didn't get away with things like, because my parents knew nothing about computers. Like my dad knew way more than I ever did. So I couldn't like sneak past him on things when it came to technology.
Sure.
But yeah, those were things, his like obsessions. So then as I got older, I realized that like I have that same wiring in my head where once I've got that thread, I'll keep pulling it and pulling it and pulling it.
Right. So when you're building a Swiss Army knife, like what are there common tools that you're looking to supplement the knife with, or what?
Well, I'm not at that level where I can make a tool from scratch to put in the Swiss.
Oh, sure.
I'll take a bunch of Swiss Army knives and I'll like take them all apart, and then I'll build them with the tools that I want in it. So like, for example, in the UK, obviously we have like pretty strict like knife laws. So I've built a Swiss Army knife that doesn't have a knife in it. So it's just got like the tools that I want to carry. Like, yeah, so I can take it, if I've got a show like in London, obviously I don't want to be carrying a knife around me in the center of London. I can take one of these tools that I can use to set up the show or whatever, and it's like completely safe. So yeah, it's just those sorts of little things. It's just an idea that I think, oh yeah, that'll be fun, and then it's like therapeutic to go ahead and do it and see if you can make it happen, right?
So I've never taken the side cases or like the protectors or the plastic or
The scales,
acrylic or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
If they're called scales, I had no idea. I've never taken them off. So when you remove them, what is it? Just pins or screws that run across all tools, I guess? Because they pivot, obviously, right?
Yeah. So you've got like a liner.
Mm.
You've got like a metal plate liner, and then obviously you've got like your tool layers, And if you've got two layers, you'll have a liner in the between, and then another liner, and then you'll have like a brass rod that runs through it, and then like a collared pin to stop it from slipping out. And the way that the Swiss Army kind of parts are designed, because you'll have a big tool and a small tool, but the opposite end of them is kind of designed in a way that like holds the tension.
Right.
So there's no springs or anything, so it can snap back based on the tension of the two things lining up. So you can't have a one-sided like tool unless you've put something there to give it the tension.
Right.
So you can play around with like what big tool, small tool you have, but you have to have at least like something there to kind of balance it out. That's basically that's what I was like, oh yeah, I don't actually have to make anything. I just have
Right.
to take it apart and put it back together again. And then obviously you can custom, there's like loads of custom scales and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's a fun little thing, and it's inexpensive. Like it
Right.
doesn't cost anything. And I like those types of hobbies. Like you know, and like you, that's really into cars and stuff like that. I can't go down that rabbit hole. That would cost me way too much money.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never owned more than one car ever until just this past November. So it's just like it's new to me as well. Much to do with the same point you just made. It's a financial hurdle. But it's funny. Actually, it's not funny. It was kind of tragic. Last year, I unfortunately got my Swiss Army knife confiscated at Charles de Gaulle Airport. And I had owned this Swiss Army knife. My grandmother gave it to me for my ninth birthday, and I've had it
No.
since 1989. And I always kept it in my DOP kit, when I was traveling. Well, because of my travels and I had to shift and move things around, I ended up chucking my DOP kit in my backpack and not in my checked bag. And I've forgotten, I don't even know, it just wasn't top of mind that the knife was inside my DOP kit. And I should have thought about it. I didn't take it out and put it back in the suitcase, as I have done before, because I was, whatever. But yeah, it was, what is that? 34 years old that I had that,
Oh
or
man.
36 years old. I had it almost. And yeah, it's a big bummer. But when I flew from France over to Switzerland, I was like in Zurich and they had a Swiss Army store. And I was like, well, what better place to buy a Swiss Army knife than in Switzerland? So I literally just bought another Huntsman, which was the model I've had. And I always liked it because it had the saw on it. And when I was a kid, I
Yeah.
would like saw tree branches and, like exploring in the woods and stuff. And so, yeah, so I bought another one, and then I guess I changed what'd you call it? Skins, I guess?
The
The
scales.
scales, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went with the typical red on one side, and I made the other side black, and then I numbered it. So now it says 2024 dash. So until whenever, right? So now I know when I bought this knife, and also to commemorate the year that I lost my other, which sucks, but But yeah, that's my Swiss Army knife story. But that's cool, man. So when did you get into photography then, and like, what do you shoot?
So I got into photography kind of again by chance. So once I my first like graduate job out of uni was working with Hypebeast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of video work, and so after that job, I was kind of focusing mostly on video work. I was doing a lot of videography for people and that sort of thing. And I think at the time, I being around cameras and everything. One of my friends who I was doing work with, he was quite into photography, and he gave me like the crash course on that. Like I knew my way around a camera, but I hadn't really given much thought about, you know, photography as a thing. And then he took me on like there was a photo walk in New York. There used to be this place called Reed Space that isn't there anymore, and it was I think a part of Jeff Staples, like one of his outlets that he'd done
Wow.
in New York City. And they did a photo walk, and it was just a bunch of like random like photographers that never met each other just kind of come together meet at Reed Space and then walk around the city and just get photos of different people doing different things and that sort of stuff. And and I kind of just fell in love with photography like then. Like I remember actually just kind of walking around and just trying to capture things, and it was the first time I was just in that environment where I was actively trying to look at the world through a lens of what or how I wanted to capture it. And then photography became work. Maybe a few years later, I was doing video work for like an agency that had brought me on board just to do some video stuff, and they'd heard that I'd like doing photography in my free time, and they'd said, "Oh, do you want to do some photo stuff for us? Because we've got like this gig with like Heineken coming up, and we need someone to like take photos." And I was like, "Okay." So I just kind of threw into it, and then did a couple photo projects, and then photo work became like another tool, I guess, for me to kind of sell my creative services to people.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah. So that's how photography came to be.
Did you go to New York a lot working for Hypebeast then?
No. So that wasn't with Hypebeast. That was like a year or so later. With Hypebeast, I was working. I only did stuff in Hong Kong and in the UK. I was kind of freelancing at the time that I was working in New York, but I was doing obviously mostly editing stuff in the UK. And so I'd spent a bit of time in New York, but it was not enough, I think, to really get, like, I think if you're in New York a long time and you've got those creative skill sets, it's such a great city to like hone in a style that I didn't quite have an opportunity to do. But yeah.
So why Hong Kong? Do you speak Cantonese?
I do speak a bit of Cantonese, yeah. My Hypebeast's headquarters is in Hong Kong.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I always associate it with New York for some reason.
Yeah, a lot of people do actually. You're not the first. The founder of Hypebeast, he's like from Hong Kong. Like he studied in the US. But yeah, he's from Hong Kong, and so the headquarters are based there. And at the time they had, I think, a remote office in New York, and they had like a couple account managers maybe dotted around, but I was like the first creative hire that was based out of the UK, because they weren't really doing that type of content, and so I was doing mostly stuff about sneakers, really, just mostly stuff about trainers. Yeah, because obviously sneaker culture is big, and I was really into trainers and stuff, and so yeah, it was an easy job to take, but I was just surprised that I got it, and then it's just been kind of a crazy path ever since then. I haven't done one thing after that point. I just constantly did all these different creative things. So
that's amazing. To make a living too that way. It's fascinating. What's the best sneaker of all time?
Oh, the best sneaker of all time. Oh man.
You can only wear one style for the rest of your life.
Me?
What's
okay. If it's for me, I know exactly. It's got to be the Jordan 1. It's got to be the one. Yeah.
Okay, well, how were you thinking about the question initially?
As in the best sneaker of all time in terms of like design and like cultural significance and like all those things.
You think it's not the Jordan 1? I might still say the same.
Oh.
Think of how many shoes were designed after that. Like modeled on that, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, to be fair, like you could say like anything that came from Tinker Hatfield was like, yeah, you could put Pinnacle. It in that category. Yeah. I think for me, like the one is and kind of always has been my favorite.
Yeah.
Like I don't own, like aside from like one pair of running shoes and obviously boots, which I mostly wear all the time, I had 2 Jordan 1s. I had Band Breads and I had the Royal Blue. But now I've only got the Royal Blues. That's the only pair of trainers that I'll wear like casually.
Oh, funny.
That's the only thing from my past life that I've kind of kept. Like, because I used to have loads of sneakers and then I just got rid of them all because it was just, they're collecting dust. I wasn't really wearing them.
Right.
But yeah, it's probably the Jordan 1. Yeah. I'm happy with that decision. Yeah.
What's your go-to boot these days?
Go-to boot. No frills. It's got to be the Blundstones, man.
Oh, okay.
Just because, like, I don't know if it's like an age thing, but like,
no laces. Yeah.
Yeah. Like slip-on shoes are like, what have I been doing my whole life, man? Like wasting time tying laces.
Jeff Hilliard and I just had that conversation, and he finally bit the bullet and bought some boots last year.
Yeah, boots are yeah. I mean, there's lots of good options for boots.
With laces, I mean. He got some with
Oh, he
laces.
got some with laces.
Yeah,
Oh, he'll get to the blunts. Yeah,
oh no, he's been that. He's just saying like his rule was like no laces. It was always like slip on boot, like a Chelsea or a loafer. And he was like, "Oh my god, I got boots with laces." He's like, "It's crazy."
yeah. Before I got the blunts, I used to live like in docks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like my docks.
It's very British of you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll wear my docks most of the time, to be honest. But the blunts they're so convenient just to slip on, and and I reconditioned them and re-waxed them recently, so they're way more bulletproof than they were when I bought them.
Interesting. What'd you wax them with? Is it like Nick Wax or what'd you use?
There's a brand called Otter Wax out of I think they're out of Portland or Oregon,
That tracks. Yeah.
and they've got like loads of like leather care stuff, and they've got like a conditioner and a salve and all that sort of stuff. But I had like the rustic looking blunts that aren't really waterproof, so then I kind of conditioned them and re-waxed them, and then after they were re-waxed and the wax dried, once I started wearing them, they started to get like a crack pattern, like that
Sure.
that Rogue Territory wax jacket that everybody was hyped about for a while.
Mm-hmm.
The boots had got like this crack texture on them, and they looked really sick. So I've been kind of enjoying them, almost like I've got a new pair of boots.
Well, does the water seep in the cracks then or no?
No, because
Okay.
the cracks is where almost like the wax collects.
Oh, it's a collection, not a gap, right? Got it.
Yeah, not a gap. Yeah, and then obviously I did a big like coating of it around the seams and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, I like blunts. Then they're I'm not gonna be walking around in wellies anytime soon. So this feels like a good choice for like the weather and the place where I live. So
Yeah, I know James Stacy's a huge Blundstone guy. I've never owned a pair. When you wax them, did it manipulate the color at all? Did it make them darker or anything?
yeah,
Yeah.
I made them darker. Yeah. Which I
Okay.
was a little bit disappointed about at first because it made them look more formal.
Oh, funny. Right. Are
Yeah.
they black or what color are
No,
yours?
they're like a light. They're like a light. The original color is their rustic brown, so it's kind of like a woody, sandy brown with like a texture to it. And once I first waxed them, they just looked like the dark brown Chelsea boot, and
Right.
it just looked like a fancy shoe, like that isn't me. But then after I started wearing it and they started to crack, then they kind of regain that character again, which I'm pretty happy about.
Oh, that's great. Well, you seem to wear a lot of black and you're a very creative guy, so I'm kind of curious what kind of music you listen to.
Oh man,
And with the Doc Martens, I'm like, is this guy into punk or is he into what
I'll
are you?
listen. Honestly, like I've never had a genre of music that I've felt like is just like my thing.
Yeah.
I've said, oh yeah, I explicitly listen to that genre. Um, like I've got a very broad taste in music. I think because obviously I've got parents from two different like cultures and walks of life. I've got siblings that are much older, so they had like an
Oh.
80s upbringing. So like their music influences became my music influences before I had an opportunity to really develop my own music influences. Um, so I listen to everything, man.
Yeah.
At the moment, I listen to two types of music. I listen to mostly rap and hip hop in the gym, and I'll listen to like country music when I'm driving.
No kidding.
Yeah, those are the two things. And I've been chatting to this guy recently who made this custom watch strap for me, and he kind of introduced me to this like outlaw country music.
Sure.
I started listening to this outlaw country music that's pretty sick. So yeah,
So who's the artist that fits that description most?
like outlaw country music. Uh,
Or like who's like representative of it at least?
I'm gonna have to go back and have a look at what. Okay, so like let's like the Red Clay Strays.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm out. I don't know.
He basically gave me this whole list of like these musicians that I'd never heard of before, right? Because in the UK we get country music, but we get like the not the PG country music, but we get like the watered down country music that is maybe more suitable for everyone. Which is
Right.
there's a lot of good stuff in that too.
Zach Bryan.
Yeah, Chris Stapleton, like he's
Sure.
still good, good musicians.
Yeah.
But then he gave me this list of these names I'd never heard of before, and so I just
Right.
kind of like I was adding them to a list on Spotify and working my way through them slowly. So, but they're all like Johnny Cash kind of like,
Sure.
you know what I mean?
Real country music.
Yeah.
Which is cool for cool for like long drives.
Right.
It's a bit
That's
different,
funny.
and then but I can't really train in the gym with that because it's just like it's
Yeah.
weird. Like, yeah, it's like I'm not having a standoff in the gym, so it doesn't really it doesn't feel
Or
appropriate.
hopefully anywhere else, because your knife has no knife in it.
Exactly. I'm knifeless, listening to outlaw music. Yeah.
What what's the car? What do you drive?
The car. Oh, I've just got. I'm not a car guy. Like, just as a preface, like I'm not a.
Oh, it's all good.
At the moment, because I don't really do. We only drive around like where I live, so we have an electric car,
Got it.
which is a Nissan Leaf.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. That's like kind of an OG electric car.
Yeah, we got one of the. It's like one of the newer ones. It's got a bit more mileage, but like it's the reason we got it at the time where the fuel prices here in the UK just went like,
Bunkers. Yeah.
and so it was like, oh, we can like drive the same miles for like £10, where a full tank would cost like I don't know 70 or whatever. So it just made more sense because of the type of range that we were driving. But now that I'm driving a lot more for work, I was like talking to my wife recently about getting another car because I was like, I need a car. I can't drive this car to like Scotland, man, because I'd have to stop like 6 times. And
Yeah.
like sometimes, and the network here in the UK isn't good for electric cars. Like you're rolling the dice going to a service station, hoping and praying that the charger is like in service. Because if you're
Right.
not, then you're screwed. So you have to have like a lot of backup plans. So, and I don't like being that unprepared. So, um,
Do you find that you need to go to Scotland often or no?
no, I just like Scotland.
The roads are amazing up there, I've heard.
Yeah, like that. It's just a nice place, and it's one of those things that like every time I go there, I think, why don't I come here more often?
Right.
Because it's like so close, and it's just a really nice place to be.
GTI, man. Get a GTI.
Oh yeah, if it was that easy.
Biggest bang for your buck, honestly. Like, I mean, you're not going to find a better performing car for that price.
Yeah, my problem is not so much the best bang for the buck. It's having the bucks to begin with. That's yeah. So
Well, you go pre-owned, of course.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that I think I feel like I might become a car guy later on in my life,
Yeah.
just because it's like it is another rabbit hole, and I think when I have the time and the resources, then I can sit back and sink it.
Yeah, I mean, you've got that, and then the whole customization aspect is really fun. I mean, it much like sneaker culture. Like it becomes like who you are in a sense, and you could change the wheels and tires, and you could lower it, and you could I don't know paint it, or you're like for me, I swapped the tail lights in my GTI to European spec, so you can like you could change it and still make it look like yours, but it'll look different from others.
See, I know that would get addicting because like even
Yeah.
just customization on like old console games for
Right.
cars,
Right.
you get yeah. I'm very aware of the risk of getting involved in cars, so I'm very hesitant about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really funny. What does your wife think of all the tinkering you do?
Um.
Is that something she like admires, or is it like does it annoy her?
Oh no, it doesn't annoy her. She's I think because I am of that like mind. I'm very content and I'm very like calm generally and
Yeah.
happy and kind of like and I don't tend to overspend and she knows exactly where I am at any point in time, because I'm kind of usually just in my own space tinkering away with things. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I think it's a good place to be, I guess, for a marriage.
Yeah, no, brilliant, man. No, congratulations.
Yeah, it's like
uh,
a good settled environment.
so you said you have older siblings. Are you what number are you in the lineup?
I'm the youngest.
Okay, but like how many of you are there?
There's three.
Okay, got it. And are they local or do they live elsewhere?
So my brother, he used to live in Hong Kong, but he's recently moved to Singapore. And then my sister lives kind of more north, like closer to Manchester.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, they're a good like 7+ years kind of older than me. So um, I feel like I had like a mix of an 80s and a 90s upbringing, like in one.
It's the best.
Yeah. So it was, yeah, it's I have a lot of like references to things that kind of my peers might not have just because they're a little bit older references.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, I feel like that makes you more well-rounded as a result. What did your folks do growing up? Are they still working?
No, no, my parents are retired. My dad kind of worked in like food distribution, and my mom, took care of us.
Cool.
She had the hardest job of all. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, all right. As far as the watches go, like how did you go from like videography and photography and all these creative outlets to being like, okay, yeah, I feel like I need to make a watch. You know what I mean?
The watch thing I think was like kind of like the other hobbies I get. There were like these flash in a pan that just I ran with and ended up just running kind of Forrest Gump with it and just kind of going and going and going.
Yeah.
But it happened at a time where like there were two things that were kind of crucial to the kind of the inception of it.
Mm.
One was COVID, so having all the time in the world in one place doing nothing but the thing. And the second thing is I'd been doing video photography for a number of years, and I was getting these itches, right? Like, when you do something that you like, you might love, but then if you do it as a job, you start to kind of like not really enjoy it. And
Totally.
like photography is one of those things. Like, if you love photography, that's great. But then if you have to do like a catalog of like 300 images of something that you really aren't interested in, it's quite draining, right? So I was getting to that point in like my creative career where I wanted to start telling my own story. Like I wanted to start communicating my own thing, and I toyed around with the idea of, maybe doing my own kind of documentary or like doing a photo exhibit or just kind of something that was mine. I fell in love with watches, and then it was COVID. So then it all just kind of was like, boom, like one, this is what I'm going to do. And I just like ran with it. And then I had a lot of people around me at that time because of working in photo videography, a lot of entrepreneurs that had started their own businesses, their own projects. And so that wall of thinking that it wasn't possible had gone. Like I had people around me that I could say, okay, how do I go from A to B, or how do I get off the ground? And they offered me the advice to be like, you just take one step at a time, or like get the product ready first, and then the other things will fall into place, and like all these kind of little bits of advice.
Sure.
And again, that just amplified the thought process of thinking, okay, maybe, if I spend some time on this, I might have something, be as risk averse as possible, because I don't know what's going to happen after COVID ends.
Yeah.
And see where it takes me. And it just so happened that when I kind of launched the product, people liked it, and
Yeah.
it it went from strength to strength, I guess. And so I was like, well, okay, I'll just I'm ready to double down on this and make it into something.
Sure. How do you describe the aesthetic? Because it is unique, and that's a good thing.
um Industrial, I'd say there's an industrial kind of element to it. It's got influences of things that I've always been interested in, which is there's a little bit of kind of brutalism in there, there's minimalism in there, there's some British military kind of references, there's the simplicity that you find in kind of Japanese products, which I've always been interested in. So there's like a mix of my tastes kind of in amongst it. Um, but it's just creating something that I wanted to see, really, that felt kind of fluid and true to my approach in wearing watches.
Mm-hmm.
Like tool watches. Tool watches, when you say tool watches and people think of tool watches, you think of, dive watches, you think of pilot watches, you think of, these watches that fit this category or genre of person, right? And I wanted to kind of reimagine that as these are tool watches. This isn't like a tool watch for a pilot. This is a tool watch the way a hammer is a tool. as like an instrument of design or an instrument of like use. And so that's where my head was. Like you don't have to have like all this inspiration, or you don't have to be this guy who climbs Everest every weekend to like wear a tool watch. You just have to be the guy who's prepared to pick up a hammer and go hit some nails with it. Like that's all.
Sure.
That's the only kind of concept that I had in my head.
So it's more of a design follows function kind of thing.
Yeah, so it was kind of create something where people will treat it as it's supposed to be treated,
Right.
in more of a truer sense, as opposed to, like, again, like I said, taking it on a flight or whatever. Like, use them, beat them up. And so, like, obviously the choice in the cost, the materials, and like the legibility and all these other features have to play a role in achieving that.
Yeah.
And that's where I guess the concept behind the watch came.
What watches influenced the design? Were there any that you were like, oh, I like these, I don't know, hands, I like that bezel, I like, was it kind of approached that way, or was it like just a vision in your mind?
There's a bit of both. There was like a crossover. There are points. There are points that are referential, like the hour hand on the first watch, which obviously the hour hands, that hands as a set have continued over. The hour hand specifically is taken from the, like, one of my favorite watches, which is the 1960s MOD spec Seamaster,
Okay.
which is a very like wide, broad arrow, like, and I love that. I thought that was like amazing, but I didn't want to have, but I don't like the. Well, it's not that I don't like it, because the sword hands as a set is a great set of hands, but I wanted the minute hand to feel as bold and as impactful. So then I felt like that's how I wanted to redesign that handset to make it more suitable for my taste, something a bit more bold, a bit more kind of strong in design. Um, if you look at there's certain angles of the case, it's hard to see because it's a little bit maybe abstract. But if you look at the watch from, let's say you've got it on your wrist like this, obviously I'm showing him on the screen. You can't do
Right.
this.
So, like, if you were to get it level with your eyes looking across the sapphire from 6 o'clock.
There you go. That was good. That was good. The way that
I'm just describing what I see.
the way that the lugs kind of curve up to the bezel,
Sure.
there's like a flow to that you commonly find in the the Seamaster line.
Mm. So you're a big Omega guy.
I do like Omega, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some flows to the older Omega cases that I just think have like so much more character to them. Because Rolex mastered the slab angle, like the slab sides, these blocks, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't want that, and I also didn't want something that was too delicate and too kind of, what's the right word? Like overly
Soft.
fussy or soft.
Yeah.
So I would try to find like the middle ground between the two, but I liked the shape or the slimness that some of the old Omega divers had, like the 2254. Because I think that as a generation, like, those cases were just so slim and they were so compact and they wore really, really well. And the wearing experience was like the number one objective when I was designing it. That's why, even though the specs might say that it's a 40 mil watch, it doesn't wear anything like a 40 mil watch. It's super compact, it's super slim, it's it sits really low, so you can go about your day and not worry about it.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, I look at the handset and I think of mil sub for the hour hand, and I think of like an Elongenzona or like an Alpha handset for the minute hand.
Yeah.
Two of the best handsets designs of all time, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Super
Yeah.
legible, which is clearly very important. I don't know. I look at your watch and I was like, oh, this is like a 2023 watch if Oakley designed it. Do you know what I mean?
I've had that before. I've had someone mention about Oakley.
Yeah. Like, it's very much that industrial but futuristic.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very Oakley to me, and I mean that completely as a compliment. You're like oh god, what are they called? The hallmarks? What are they called? The 12, 3, 9. God,
The Cardinals.
the Cardinals. Thank you. They're more teardrop. So what was the approach to the teardrop Cardinals as opposed to either keeping them round or going rectangle per usual or something like that?
I wanted I wanted to have a lot of like holistic design cues, things
Oh,
that like
interesting.
tied things together.
Okay.
And so that's why I wanted the edges of the cardinal markers to have round edges to line up with everything else. And that's why there's
Sure.
also a ring line that connects all the markers as one.
Mm.
It kind of creates, if you look at how eyes are sketched with reflective, like to make an eye realistic, you'd add like a white circle and there's like a line around it. And I felt like from a design point of view, it's very like eye catching and sharp. It like picks up light when it might not be light, you know. So you can always read it, no matter what kind of angle you're at. I guess you're always going to catch where the markers are.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wanted something that had like a target focus to pull your eyes into, again, where the handset is, where the markers are, what the time is. It's all about pulling it into, again, the visual elements help you to digest the product as a whole, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of, if the glass is the majority width of the case, for example, the watch will look and wear much bigger than it actually is. Whereas if
Correct.
the
Yeah.
glass is smaller, then it will pull everything in. And I felt like by creating markers that had that and they all connected, it would pull it in even further. So you would still have the legibility, but you wouldn't lose any of like the form factor that gives it the appeal when looking at it.
Yeah, I feel like chapter rings and like concentric circles like that also do that, even if the glass is larger. Like you see that most in the Big Pilot. The only Big Pilot to ever have a chapter ring was the first one. And if you put that on your wrist, I've always thought the 5002 wears smaller visually because of that chapter ring. But I mean, maybe that's just a me thing. But as an IWC stan, like I just like, you know, I've always enjoyed that one most because of the chapter ring.
The thing with chapter rings as well, like with a lot of chapter ring designs from watches of that era, they they're able to seat the glass slightly differently. They can seat the glass almost behind the chapter ring, which brings the glass almost closer to the dial, which creates that shallowness, which again gives you that, like, there's a visual voodoo
Perspective.
that's
Yeah.
going on, that allows you to almost believe the watch is a certain size almost when it's not.
Visual voodoo. I love that. That sounds like, I don't know, it sounds like a sick band, like death metal band or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's just all like design tricks, right? Like there's a lot of design tricks to create a product that doesn't have compromises, let's say, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
What's the dial made from?
The dial made from?
Yeah, because it's textured.
Oh, there's no, they're made out of brass.
They are brass. Okay.
Yeah, they're
Because
brass.
again, that texture, not to just incessantly compare you to other people because it's kind of obnoxious, but I apologize. But like, I mean, it's very like Patek Philippe from a few years ago in their pilot's watches. You know, that
Yeah,
texture dial. It's very. Also, it kind of reminds me of like the side of a camera case. You
that's
know.
the inspiration.
Oh, was it really?
The camera grip was the original idea.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
the
that's
grip,
cool.
that grip texture, because it's a brass dial that's essentially been like bead blasted to create the uneven surface,
Yeah.
and then obviously painted and everything. But yeah, it's the only other, obviously, apart from like precious metal dials, the other option that you can go with is like soft iron. I think IWC uses soft iron dials to increase their anti-magnetic qualities. But yeah, for the most part, it's brass.
What's the approach to the use of color, especially with this dual time piece that you have with like the kind of lollipop?
That it's more like lack of color probably for me.
Yeah, I mean it's very monochromatic except for that hand. It's either blue or orange. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
it's
Like
pretty
I
powerful.
I I'm not the most colorful character in terms of my aesthetic, my clothes of yeah, like everything I like it in black, navy, gray.
Yeah.
I'm recently getting more into things like tan, which is like maybe, I'm growing into that space. But as far as my watches, I think my watches will always be kind of monochromatic. But then there's just these little elements I think that create, again, just more visual intrigue and visibility and legibility that I think is key for certain colors. But again, with like a navy gray, you're looking at the opposite spectrum to find the complementary color. So that's how I'm picking the orange or the blue and that sort of thing.
Sure.
Again, there's not too much thought behind this because I do not have that ability. I'm not like Jonathan Ferrer, right? Who's got like Jonathan Ferrer can put colors together, they just work, right? Like
Yeah.
he can just throw them at a wall and be like, boom, these go. I don't have that skill. So if it's an orange hand, like not a lot of thought from me went behind it. I was like, that is what will go.
I just thought you were super into the gray NATO because it's like
Oh
their
right.
brand colors.
I mean, I am super into the
I know.
granite too.
I was kidding. Yeah, yeah.
So that I don't mind that.
What is it? A day night indicator, or is it a moon phase? What are the two apertures?
Yeah, so it's a 12-hour dual time for the auto room.
Got it.
So the colored lollipop hand is the second time zone, but it functions like another hour hand. The left aperture is for the local or main hour hand, and the right aperture is for the colored dual time hand, and it tells you AM or PM. So if it's white, it's AM. If it's black, it's PM.
Yeah, that's great. I'm kind of more interested in the actual initial investment and like the approach that way. So, how did you go about financing it, and B, what were the surprises? Because if I recall from a previous interview, I think I heard of you. I think you did 300 pieces initially.
For
Is
the
that right?
first watch, for the first
Right.
one, yeah.
Was that like a kick in the pants, like emotionally when you found out how much it was going to cost,
Um,
or was it kind of approachable?
the kick in the pants of the first watch was just like the learning curve of making a product.
Yeah.
I'm making a product in the wake of COVID where the delays were insane. I was making like a full titanium watch where not many people were there was not many people making full titanium watches, and B, the factories that were, they they were having a lot of difficulty
Mm.
because it just was very difficult to do. And at the price I sold it, it was like, again, it was not only hard for them, it was hard for me. So the difficulty came later in fulfilling that. As far as like financing, do you mean financing the first one or financing the second one?
Oh, with either, both, you know.
So the first one was a crowdfunded essentially, but a crowdfunded on my own website, because I wanted the kind of the audience that was backing me to know that I was also shouldering the risk. It wasn't like Kickstarter where, once that money's gone, you can't get it back, right? Like that person, the who you've backed, they've got it no matter what. That's if they deliver, it's up to them. I wanted people to know that they could cancel it or they could,
Mm.
return it once they got it. And I was prepared to, put my money where my mouth is, so to speak.
Cool.
That the first watch was like crowdfunded because I was just really thankful that people kind of believed in me and I wanted to do my best in delivering that. And I kept the margin as low as possible in order to show that I was really just trying to create something.
How did you find all those people? Like, how did they find out about it?
Social media, there was some articles written in like watch media publications and stuff that had caught onto it.
Did you reach out to those media people, or did they find you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
coincidentally?
So some of them found me. Like,
I see.
some of them I reached out to. Like, there's the guys at Warner Wow and the guys at Fratello, and they gave me a platform and a voice before I really deserved it. And so I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah.
But then there's also guys like there's a guy based out in Japan who writes for one of the magazines in Japan who I had no idea that he even wrote about me until I started seeing all these pings from Japan. And so I started to hunt him down and I found him. And then, I actually a couple of years ago went to Japan to thank him and I had dinner with him and he was like a really, really sound guy.
Incredible.
Again, with a crazy story that you could probably have on the show. I think it would be interesting. But so we crowdfunded the first one. We made 300, and it was like a learning curve. It was like a, a test of the product was a test of concept, right? It was far from like a product that I felt was reflective of what the brand should be and
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted it to become.
Mm-hmm.
So I already knew how to improve it before we even finished it, but it was not something that was possible. So I was able to implement those improvements in the second watch.
Yeah.
We had some money left over that I was like, I hope I have enough money to do it all over again. And so we did it all over again. And then the second time, obviously, it kind of built in the ability to like, run it as a company and, you know, uh, take it a little bit further, grow the business slowly, kind of put in the foundations, those sorts of things in order to give the Arken brand some legs, so to speak.
So are you offering both watches now? Sorry, forgive me. I'm on your website right now, actually.
No, so
So
the first one sold out.
and you're not offering it still. It doesn't remain in the
That
catalog.
one, no, I'm not making that one anymore. That one was
Okay.
like a one and done um, project, essentially, to create something for the space and create it. It's like I kind of treat it, or I feel of it like it's a love letter almost, to the community of being like, this is what I wanted to do, and if I could wear one watch for the rest of my life, this is what it would look like. And um, I kind of wanted to move on from that point and start building the aesthetics of the brand. That first watch is like the DNA of the brand,
Sure.
which I'm now kind of taking samples from to design this collection, which is starting with the Ultram.
I see.
Um, and so yeah, that's kind of, so the Ultram is the first like mainstay catalog product that we have available.
Well, I was going to say, what is the philosophy behind that? Because, like, as you pull details from the initial watch, what happens 5 years from now when people maybe don't see the lineage because they don't understand what was first? Does that make sense?
Right. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of cues that are like translated straight over, like the markers, the hands, the design elements that made the first watch almost like the first tool of man, right? Like it's the
Mm-hmm.
first, the instrumentum is like the first tool of man, and then we're building out these other pieces in the same collection using the design language or the shapes and the form factor of that first model that in its raw essence was how the brand should look and feel.
Mm-hmm.
But just we can do it better now, right? Like we can execute
Right.
it better, we can use better materials, we can use better movements, we can use the developments we've made on the technology side, and as the industry gets better, we can deliver more. I have no plans of bringing the instrumentum back, but if we're lucky to get to, let's say, a 20th anniversary or something like that, then it would be cool to do like a full bells and whistles
Yeah.
version of that watch that just is yeah, balls to the wall.
The first watch has London pending at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. So
What
that
does
was
that mean?
because so that was because when I designed it, again, like I was traveling with doing previous work, and I actually originally designed the instrumentum while I was in lockdown in the Philippines, and so the plan was to move back to the UK, and
Oh,
set up an office in London, like actually set up a premises in London, and run the operation out of London. When I launched the company and I moved back to the UK and I registered it and everything, I didn't end up moving to London, because I,
that's so
I met,
funny.
yeah, I met my wife, and we moved out to the countryside, and I felt like this was the best place for me to run the business.
So is she from the UK or
Yeah.
okay. I didn't know if you met her in the Philippines.
No, 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 no. I met her like once I moved back,
Oh, cool.
but she kind of grew up and lived close to where I grew up, so she's from the same sort of Midlands area.
That's nice. What okay, tell me about the fonts because I love the numbers and the subseconds. Um what is the font for the numbers the same font as the letters or are they different?
No, they're different. The font for the subdial numbers is taken from the font that I made for the bezel of the first watch.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, I guess the numbers are the same font, they're just like not as bold, I guess.
Yeah.
Got it.
They're just
Got
not
it.
as bold. because they
Sweet.
wouldn't fit. Yeah, they wouldn't fit.
Did you create that font, or what font is
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
You did. So you designed it.
Number font's really easy
Sure.
because you only need to make 9 of them, right?
Right, right.
Um, like I'm not gonna do a whole alphabet, but I'll do a number font. Is yeah, is easy enough.
Where does Arken come from a name perspective?
So originally it was a placeholder. Um, it was a placeholder because so my name's Ken, right? And in the UK, especially if you're from like the Midlands or from up north, you would say if we were brothers, let's say, right, and I was talking to someone about you, I would say our Wes. Like our Wes is down there, like ours in he's mine, like my brother, like our, right? So
Oh,
our Ken,
funny.
right? So so my siblings refer like if they're talking about me, they're like, oh yeah, our Ken does that, like our, right?
That's so funny.
That's like a regional like slang thing, I guess it would be coined maybe.
No, but it makes sense, you know.
Yeah, that was like a placeholder.
Because, well, it's also like if your brother is also named Ken, it's like, but our Ken does that, not yours. So it's like, if you
Exactly.
just say Ken does that, you're like, well, wait, my brother or your brother, you know? So, like, it's actually quite useful.
Yeah, so that's quite common, like in the Midlands and kind of where I grew up. And so I'd been referred to as that because I have an uncle who's called Ken.
See? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like it was used, quite a bit growing up.
I love that.
And so I had it as a placeholder, and while I was thinking of a name, and then I thought to myself, do you know what? This actually kind of works as a name because in terms of my motives for being in the industry, it I want people who kind of follow the brand and support us to feel that kinship with me. Like I'm very involved with the community and I like being a part of it and I like being connected to our owners and stuff like that. And so
Sure.
for them to, wear one of our watches, they, you know, if someone says to them, okay, where's that watch from? Oh, it's from Arken. Like he's from one of our, like he's one of ours, right? Like the community, Ken is also one of ours.
Yeah,
Like that's
that's
the
like, that's such a sweet sentiment. I love that.
but then obviously I had to change it a little bit so it made a little bit more design sense, right?
Mhm.
Make it 5 letters, make it a little bit more concise, make it, good, and it worked for SEO. Like it all fit,
Yeah.
all these other things fit, right? So I then thought, okay, I'll use it as an actual name, and I now really really love that that's how it came to be.
Yeah. 100%. So, okay, so what's next? And like, do you design a third design and then this one gets, the retirement treatment like the first watch, or do you continue to make the one that's currently for sale and then come up with a third iteration?
So the trajectory or the timeline of the brand that I've got in my head right now is the Ultram is our first like mainstay catalog product. That's always going to be there. And I have got 2 other designs that will complete the, let's say, the Instrumentum trilogy, like the Instrumentum design language trilogy.
Mm,
Those designs are already done. The next one is coming out this year, and the one after will come out next year.
cool.
And so those 3 will be permanent kind of catalog products that are represent us as a brand in 3 watches. Like that's just what they are.
That's
And they
great.
will always be available. Obviously we'll improve them over time, improve the materials, maybe improve the, as loom gets better, as titanium gets better, as like all these machining techniques, we'll
Sure.
improve them. But from a design point of view, those will be there. And then the plan is to then start taking some, if not already, big experimental swings, right? Like we took a big risk doing a modified movement for the Ultram. I'm not saying we're going to modify a movement for every watch we make, but like I have some other bigger ideas for things that would require R&D money that we can maybe only achieve if we have some catalog products that are always available.
Yeah.
And so that's where my mind is. But I've got a lot of designs in the tank for things that I want to do, just because whenever I have a free slot for time to draw stuff, I will go and do it because I love it. I love being in the space and I love designing watches and amongst other things.
That's amazing. That's great. Well, Ken, man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. This has been really fun to kind of explore the brand and learn more about the backstory and stuff. Is there anything else you wanted to promote?
I'm gonna be obviously traveling a lot more this year. I'm gonna be in Vancouver,
Sweet.
which will be obviously the end of April. I'm hoping to get my US visa approved so I can come over to the US and mob around and show my wares.
Yeah.
And I've got this speakeasy collection, which is what we've launched this year, which is a limited series of limited edition watches that you can only ask. Like, it's available on request. So if you see me on the street or you see me at an event, you can ask to see the speakeasy and I've got it and you can buy it on the spot.
Oh, I love that. It's like, yeah, that's amazing. Well, let's connect here in the US for sure. I'd love to do, maybe we do some version of like a either Red Bar event, or we could do like a meetup event to where we could connect and maybe sell some stuff side by side. I'd love to. And then additionally, as I've mentioned, I'll be in London in a couple weeks. So, you've got my contact, and I hope to see you. I don't know. I guess it's really like less than 3 weeks away, actually. It's 2 weeks from tomorrow, in fact, I think.
Oh, that's actually perfect because I'll be in Geneva next week.
Yeah, everybody's going to be at Watches and Wonders, and then I think everybody gets back on like the 7th. I'm in London the 10th through the 14th.
Oh, perfect.
And then my event's Friday night, the 11th.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So yeah, please come.
We'll make something happen. Yeah, that would be cool.
For sure. And at least throw back a pint or something.
Yeah.
Ken, thank you, brother. This is great.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
You've had some really great guests on, and when you asked me to come on, I was really chuffed and excited. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. No, my pleasure. Okay, well, I'll be in touch.
Thanks a lot, man.
This wraps up this episode of the Standard Age podcast. If you like what you heard, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend or two. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the show, as it helps others discover these episodes. It absolutely helps far more than you realize. Shout out to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme track. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.